The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
Good morning. Thanks for waking up with us. I'm Maddie Jansen, anchoring from home this morning, and Nicole Gitsky in for Alex in studio. And yeah, Labor Day weekend, sending summer off with a bang, but more triple-digit temperatures are on the way, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's right. It was hot yesterday here in Bakersfield. I'm sure up in Tehachapi it was pretty warm up there as well. And unfortunately, that weather is going to stick around with us. Let's send things over to Kevin Schredt now.
Yeah, at least for the next several days before we start to see a cool down. But it was definitely a warm day yesterday. That is going to continue today for you all around Kern County. Let's take a look at the watches and warnings. We still have the heat advisory in place for all the valley locations. Right now, it's in place until 8 p.m. this evening. We may extend that out. And then we have the excessive heat warning out in the desert locations until tomorrow, right around 9 p.m. So definitely going to be a hot one. And with that, I want to remind everybody, avoid direct sunlight, take frequent breaks. If you're working outdoors in the heat, just make sure you're staying hydrated, drink plenty of water and those that contain the electrolytes, and limit any strenuous outdoor activity as much as you possibly can. Our air quality today won't help with that either. As we take a look at the number right now, 78 degrees under a calm wind for Bakersfield, and hour by hour, you can see we warm up pretty quickly. By 9 a.m., 84 degrees, 92 at 11, and right near 103 by 3 o'clock. Out of the Tehachapi area, starting out right near 59. A calm wind to start out the morning, and hour by hour here it will be a warm afternoon. Upper 70s by 9 a.m. and we'll be looking at 94 right around 1. We'll have much more in your forecast coming up in just a little bit. Maddie, back over to you.
All right, thanks so much, Kev. And we begin this morning with our 17 News follow-up file as the war between a beloved former local priest and Kern's Catholic bishop intensifies, with a letter read to worshipers at the priest's former Bakersfield church. The bishop's letter says that Craig Harrison left the priesthood the same week that the Vatican had scheduled a church trial on allegations by 7 minors of misconduct by Harrison, and refers to the allegations against him as credible. The letter was read Sunday at all masses at St. Francis of Assisi Church, where Harrison was Monsignor and pastor until he was suspended when the first allegations were made public in April 2019. Some of those allegations were more than 20 years old. Allegations against Harrison have been investigated by police in 3 counties, but no charges have been filed. The reading of the letter brought a flood of criticism of Bishop Joseph Brennan and support for Harrison on his Facebook page. Kyle J. Humphrey, an attorney who's spoken on Harrison's behalf multiple times, said he wasn't surprised by the letter's contents. His statement reads in part, "This obsessive, angry, unchristian approach the bishop has taken from day one." He said Harrison will continue to be a Christian man and continue to reach out with the message of love that Jesus taught us and won't be silenced. For the complete statement and letter, you can go to kget.com. 17 News is your local election headquarters. The recall election is 1 week from today, and that is September 14th. In Kern County, 15% of the county's 441,000 registered voters have filled out and returned their mail-in ballots as of September 1st. If you didn't receive a mail-in ballot, chances are you are not registered to vote, but you still have a chance for your vote to be counted. You can go to the elections office and fill out a conditional voter registration between now and the 14th. Again, that's next Tuesday, 1 week away. Education news this morning. Today, Kern High trustees are set to decide on proposed boundary changes to maps to accommodate the opening of Oro High School. The new school at East Panama Lane and Cottonwood Road will open August of 2022. The district says a citizens committee has been working since April to revise the attendance boundaries. Trustees were presented with 3 maps showcasing potential boundary changes. They're scheduled to vote today on which map will go forward. We'll have the latest on that decision tonight on 17 News at 11.
Well, more good news on the French fire burning west of Lake Isabella this morning, with significant progress made in the past 2 days. Now, containment of the blaze is now at 65%. That's up from the 52% reported yesterday morning. Evacuation orders have also been lifted for the French fire. The fire has slowly grown to nearly 27,000 acres. More than 1,200 firefighters are still on scene. Investigators believe the fire to be human caused. Meantime, evacuation orders and warnings were lifted for parts of Placer County as crews continue gaining the upper hand against the so-called bridge fire. While some areas in the county remain closed, most were cleared from evacuation orders yesterday. The bridge fire sparked Sunday. So far, crews say it has scorched at least 411 acres and is 15% contained. Well, appreciation for state firefighters continues to pour in this morning as crews work long shifts with little sleep to protect lives and property. But for those on the front lines, the appreciation is mutual. AJ Cato from our sister station, KC, has more.
Valley firefighters stepping up as the Caldor fire exploded and thousands of people evacuated the South Lake Tahoe area. Now crews finally gaining ground and containment. Mickey Brunelli of Merced Fire Department just came off a 34-hour shift, but says a homecoming for his team is still a ways out.
I believe this is day 7 or 8 on this incident for us, so we have usually another 7 or 8 days to go before we can even think about that. But we're committed to staying as long as it takes to help mitigate the emergency.
Brunelli says fire behavior in recent years is unlike anything he saw in the first 20 years of his career. The Caldor fire broke out just over 3 weeks ago near the California-Nevada border. Since then, teams from the Madera County Sheriff's Office, Fresno Fire, Fresno Police, and many more made the journey to help. Now some evacuation orders are being lifted and reduced, with residents grateful for all those who stepped up.
You can't show enough appreciation for how well they, fought this and were able to contain it from the city itself.
Brunelli says for the Valley crews on the front lines, the appreciation is mutual.
For us, it's a privilege to help our community in times of need, and it's an honor that they have that kind of faith in us, that they allow us to come into their community and try to help them in their time of need.
That was AJ Cato reporting. Your time now is 5:07 in your 17 News homicide tracker. The mother of a 10-year-old girl who was shot and killed in Arvin back in July is talking to 17 News about that terrible night. Nearly 2 months later, with no suspects named in the case, Adriana Santos says she feels left in the dark.
Like I said, I have the rights to know a little more. I understand there's some stuff that they can't fully tell me, but I know there's more information to what I know. Me as a mother, I want justice, and I would want this to get resolved.
Santos says the Arvin Police Department knows more than they're telling her when it comes to the investigation. And though she understands to some extent, she feels like they could do more to reassure her that justice is being carried out. Liliana Jimenez and her 12-year-old brother Christian were shot on July 18th, along with their father, while riding in a car on Hill Street in Arvin. Liliana was killed. Christian and his father were wounded and hospitalized. Santos says they're recovering, at least physically, and she's asking anyone with information on the shootings to come forward. Meantime, police are investigating after a man was shot and killed in Arvin Sunday night. It happened just before 10:15 p.m. on Nora Way near Tejon Highway. Arvin police say a sergeant on patrol heard multiple gunshots nearby. He was flagged down by a woman claiming a relative of hers had been shot. Officers found a man in the driveway who'd been shot several times. He died before making it to the hospital. If you know anything about this case, call 854-5583, or you can remain anonymous by calling 606-6064. By our count, this is the 96th homicide in Kern County so far this year.
Now to a large structure fire that broke out in East Bakersfield yesterday afternoon. Now, this was the scene just before 4 o'clock. This is Gage Street, just south of Flower, about 6 blocks west of Kern Medical. You can see thick plumes of smoke as first responders tackled the fire that erupted at this home. Roughly a dozen firefighters were on scene, some spraying a truck engulfed in flames in the backyard. It's unclear what led up to this fire, and this investigation is ongoing.
Recapping our top stories on this Tuesday, the war between a beloved former priest and Kern's Catholic bishop intensified this weekend with a letter read to worshipers at Craig Harrison's former Bakersfield parish. The bishop's letter said Harrison left the priesthood the same week the Vatican scheduled a church trial on misconduct allegations from 7 minors. Despite several investigations, charges have never been filed against Harrison. California's recall election is 1 week from today, September 14th. In Kern County, 15% of the county's 441,000 registered voters have filled out and returned their mail-in ballot as of September 1st. If you're not registered to vote, you can go to the elections office and fill out a conditional voter registration between now and the 14th, next Tuesday. Today, Kern High trustees are set to decide on proposed boundary change maps to accommodate the opening of Oro High School. The new school at East Panama Lane and Cottonwood Road is set to open August of 2022. The district says a citizens committee has been working since April to revise the attendance boundaries.
Well, today, President Biden visits New York and New Jersey to see the aftermath of Hurricane Ida. Tracy Potts has more on what he'll see and how the federal government plans to help.
Nicole, good morning. Good morning, everyone. President Biden declared federal disasters in New York and New Jersey, freeing up money and people to help with the recovery. President Biden's tour today starts in Manville, New Jersey. Cleanup there was delayed because roads were impassable. At least 51 people died in the Northeast as remnants of Hurricane Ida caused catastrophic flooding.
The water just kept getting higher and higher.
Boat rescues created a scene that some described as surreal.
We were watching people getting picked off their roofs with helicopters. It was like something out of a movie.
The president also visits Queens, New York today, the city's hardest hit borough. The NYPD released body cam video showing officers diving underwater, trying unsuccessfully to save a family trapped in their basement. A scene repeated across the north and down south.
You're drowning and you're reaching up and saying, help me, and no one's coming.
Federal help is on the way. In Louisiana, the government's working with power companies. Hundreds of thousands may be in the dark till the end of the month.
We don't have any lights. We don't have any, drinkable water.
Food and gas are in short supply. Louisiana's governor expects the death toll to rise. Nursing homes were shut down and senior centers closed.
We're on mattresses on floors, and they had a couple days of no air condition.
Not one person showed up to come check on us.
So far, at least 67 people have lost their lives. The president today offering help to those who survived. In New Jersey, turns out this was the second deadliest storm in the state's history. I'm Tracy Potts, 17 News.
As remnants of Ida ripped through the Northeast last week, one New Jersey family suddenly found themselves in dire straits when a wall of their home collapsed due to powerful floodwaters, trapping a boy and his mother in different parts of the basement. And the boy's older brother was able to make it to the basement steps safely right before that wall collapsed.
Thank God he made it to the stairs, and then the wall caved in and the water came in.
Now, the boy trapped in the water punched a tile out of the drop ceiling in order to find an air pocket before being rescued by his older brother. That left mom trapped somewhere inside at the other end of the house, clinging to a boiler with maybe 4 inches of water to spare. Luckily, her husband was able to swim to her and bring her to safety. Wow, that is incredible. All right, now in your 17 Court Watch, the murder trial of 2 men charged in the shooting death of a 3-year-old Bakersfield boy is set to begin today. Prosecutors say Tyrone Johnson and David Palms shot and killed Major Sutton back in November of 2017. Investigators believe the two are members of the East Side Crip Street gang who targeted the family because Sutton's mother lived with a rival gang member. Sutton's mother and 5-year-old brother were also wounded in the shooting. Johnson and Palms made headlines earlier this year when they escaped from the Lerdo Justice Facility. Palms was caught within hours, but Johnson evaded law enforcement for nearly 2 months before his arrest. The murder trial is scheduled to begin at 8:30 this morning.
Health experts are expecting a bump in COVID-19 cases as a result of Labor Day celebrations. Along with concerts and packed stadiums, TSA shows that air travel over Labor Day was back to levels from 2 years ago. Experts say as we continue to learn to live with COVID, the festivities will come at a cost. Still, they're hopeful for the future.
I think given the combination of vaccine immunity plus the fact that we had so many transmissions recently, so that gives natural immunity, you'll have a combination of two forces keeping us relatively low in the next coming weeks after a little bump right now.
According to an NBC News tally, there are more than 40 million COVID-19 cases in the U.S. and about 653,000 confirmed deaths. Here at home, Kern Public Health did not release new numbers yesterday due to the holiday. Over the past few weeks, Public Health has confirmed hundreds of new cases each day. By our count, at least 113 people have died since vaccines became available to everyone 12 and older. It's worth noting that Public Health reports 98% of people hospitalized with COVID in Kern are unvaccinated. We're learning more about Moderna's plans for a third COVID-19 booster shot. Dr. Anthony Fauci says the U.S. will likely start to distribute Pfizer's booster shots during the week of September 20th, but the rollout for Moderna's vaccine could be delayed. The Biden administration has announced plans to offer third doses to people who received the Pfizer and Moderna shots, pending approval from public health officials. Fauci said it looks like only the Pfizer vaccine will get that approval in time for the September rollout. The U.S. has recommended an additional third shot 8 months after the second dose. As cases of COVID-19 continue to surge across the country, one family is warning parents to keep in mind another potentially deadly virus, the flu. Our Zaudust reports.
She was a healthy, beautiful little girl.
Emily Lastinger was just 3 years old when her father says she died from the flu.
She wasn't vaccinated, and she, from the time that she got ill with influenza, it was about a week before she passed away suddenly at home.
The family from North Texas says it was in 2004 before the flu shot was recommended for 6 months and older children. They helped create Families Fighting Flu. The nonprofit advocates for flu education and prevention.
You can't fix all the COVID risks right now, right? Because kids under 12 can't be vaccinated. But one thing you can do as a parent is you can take flu out of the equation.
Are you concerned that it could be a really bad flu season?
There's a lot of reasons to be concerned. We've seen how everybody got hit so hard again with RSV over the summer.
The state health department only tracks pediatric flu-related deaths. A spokesperson says data for the last 2 years looks very different because of measures taken to help with the spread of COVID-19. State numbers show so far no pediatric flu deaths reported this flu season, which runs to the end of this month. There were 20 pediatric flu deaths the year before, but the spokesperson says those numbers were also impacted after schools shut down in mid-March last year, and 17 deaths were reported in the 2018-2019 flu season.
We've got a couple years of kids now that have no natural protection from flu.
Dr. Seth Kaplan is a pediatrician and president of the Texas Pediatric Society. He recommends kids get their flu shots as soon as possible.
We have concerns that an already strained system could be strained even more if this ends up being a bad flu season.
For the Lastingers, they just don't want the flu to be forgotten during the pandemic.
I just got my text reminder also from CVS.
Their Emily would have been 21 years old now.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.